So how are you doing? How has this year been?
Well,
Pretty crazy.
yeah,
Great.
it's a tough, obviously it's a tough year for everybody. It's so unusual and so many depressing aspects to it. But I think for like if I just look at it for us, like microscopically, as four people stuck in a 900 square foot box, like we've done pretty well.
Right.
Uh, Obviously, that's just us, and I mean, otherwise here in Winnipeg, we're back to code red. So things have gone like we the summer was awesome because we had almost no cases of COVID up here.
Right.
And now it's like we are, if you look at a list of American states and Canadian provinces, we're actually in the middle. Like we're not doing well at all. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, I think for us, it's like me and my partner and my daughter and sometimes her daughter. It's about four people.
Yeah.
And down here in North Carolina, it's no different. People just don't seem to understand what's going on mostly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so everything is really bad. And yeah, it's been, I mean, we're both, me and my partner are both introverted sort of people. So it really, in a lot of ways, nothing has really changed because I think it's just having the choice to be able to go out and do something. Having
Yeah.
that removed is kind of tough because, like, if it was normal, more likely than not, I wouldn't be going anywhere anyway. But now
Right.
that I can't, it's kind of frustrating. And we saw what was going on at the start of the year and saw that it was science, and then basically was appalled and just confused when people decided to turn it into a political us versus them. My freedom, my freedom is being stripped away from me, all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, so it's been a really frustrating year. But in some ways it's been, we're doing okay. People still
Yeah.
need us, and so I kind of feel bad for people that play music for a living, obviously. But it seems like there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. But man, I just can't believe it. I just can't believe how stupid people are. It's just like it's just amazing, like. And I also can't believe that Trump actually lost. I thought for sure he was going to win. I don't know. And then he won, and then after he lost, I think just sitting around watching how he reacted to it,
Yeah.
and made me think that much more strong about my opinions about the whole situation. Like, well, look at him now. He's like
Yeah.
a little baby.
Yeah.
And,
It's a frightening reaction.
yeah, it's just crazy. So you said in Winnipeg that there wasn't a lot of cases at all until summer was over. How do you think Canada has dealt with the pandemic versus how the United States? Have you seen any differences in the way people think about what is going on up
Well,
there?
I mean, it seems on the surface that there's less people that are hostile to following protocols that will lessen the impact of the virus. It seems like there's less conspiracy stuff up here, but at the same time, in Canada, we have a number of conservative provincial administrations. Here in Manitoba, we have this guy, Brian Pallister, conservative premier, and they have this bizarre, like a little bit of that sort of American freedom thing where it doesn't matter how important it is or what good that complying with a public health order could do. Some people are against it, and he has, like, there's been from the get-go, people here in Manitoba were pretty much ready to like lock it down and get it done, like as long as there was going to be some show of probably financial support, aid from the government, you know, in the meantime, everybody was willing to shut everything down and just stop the virus. Like we had nobody was coming into Manitoba from other provinces at the time when it first started. And we had a great summer. Like we had, our kids were playing soccer in a league. Like people were out and just kind of social distancing, but out. And and when but then like in the midst of that, while everyone's being careful, all the citizens, the provincial government decides to run this campaign to invite people to come, like tourists to come to Manitoba. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like these other provinces have bad rates of COVID, and we live like North Dakota is 1 hour away from us, and they're off the charts for coronavirus because they don't believe in it. So he invites people to come tour here because he's an idiot, and people do, and the rates start going up, and the measures that, like, he starts kind of waffling on what people, well, we'll keep some businesses open, we'll keep some bars open. Like it's just confusing messaging. Like the head doctor of the whole thing was pretty reasonable, like, but the premier wouldn't like just say, like, I'm ordering some businesses to close down. He would say, we recommend you close down, which is like, everyone's like, oh, well, he recommends it, but I don't have to. So I guess
so it's
we
like
won't close down.
It's like an invitation to not do anything.
Yeah, and it's like even reasonable people are like us. We're like, well, okay, he says people can gather in groups of whatever number. It's like, well, he recommends not gathering more than this, but he didn't really say it. So, okay, we can go to grandma's, or whatever. But like, just fucking say, stay home. Stay the fuck home. If you don't, we're going to fucking give you a ticket, like a speeding ticket. And then people would stay home because ultimately we gotta get rid of this. Because now, like, hockey season has been canceled. It's like, it's kind of a disaster in a way for Manitoba youth, because if you don't have something to do outside in the winter, you're fucked. You have to learn to enjoy some winter activity, and for a large portion of the province, that's hockey. It's organized sport. So now that's off the table thanks to this weird ideological fucking half measure shit. And like, we'll be fine. I built this little backyard rink. We have lots of stuff to do in our house, but I feel bad for other people who just have video games,
Yeah.
Because that's what their kids are going to be doing.
I feel bad for people that are extroverted too during all this stuff. Because it must be the worst. It just must be so unbelievably horrible. Like I should stay home, but I feel really depressed and I just have to be around somebody. I'm going to go to this place and, I'm just going to take my chances with whatever. I think it must be really bad for those kind of people.
It would be like you or me having to be in some crazy social situation every day.
Yes, that's exactly what it would be like. It would be horrible. It'd be terrible. Well, I've always looked at Canada as being some place that, and I never could put my finger on it, where even though there are problems and not everybody's a great person, there seems to be this element more of common sense there, in a way that I can't put my finger on, where like I would just assume most people up there would go, okay, we'll wear a mask, we'll stay home, for the most part, more so than where I live. Where I live, there's like probably so many more people that are really into us versus them and that kind of thing, instead of just looking at it and go, well, I don't have to like everybody in the world, but as a part of society, I do have an obligation and duty to try to do my best so that as a whole we can get through this. And the message that was put out in the United States was anything but that. It was just like, this and that. and it's been nuts. It's just been fucking crazy. And not only that, this is something that happened recently. Like me and Kristen voted early because we had the option. And who would actually vote early? Well, probably people that might be scared of the pandemic, or whatever. And that's not going to really be a lot of people that probably are into Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So so that happens, and then shockingly enough, Trump loses, and now all these people are just like, they're really upset, and it's kind of like, well, do you have any idea how many people just voted against Trump and not necessarily for Biden? Do you know how many people that are probably still have their beliefs that are like Republican but just hated Trump? It's not some isolated incident, and it's just like, get over it.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the main sore points for Trump. Like I remember that speech he gave a few months ago where he was like, imagine if I lose this guy, he's the worst candidate possible. And then he loses to him. He lost to like the worst possible Democratic nominee. So that's got to really chafe him.
Oh yeah, totally. And I listen. I always listen to your chats on your Patreon page and stuff. And I really liked the last one a lot, where you just thought that Trump was just a reflection of what could have been done in the early 2000s. That wasn't like the idea of maybe setting up a third party that could actually be an actual threat to that. And I thought about that, and that makes a lot of sense. And I do remember like the time after 9/11 where people just kind of forget, like they forget what people really thought about Bush when he was in office, and it was not very much different than the people that opposed Donald Trump. And in the aftermath of all that stuff, I do remember thinking that the Dixie Chicks were the only people that actually spoke out against any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, punk rock, which is supposed to be, a threat or whatever, like I didn't really hear too much of that stuff. And maybe for somebody my age that already had went through it, maybe the idea of hearing anti-Bush Youth League or whatever is maybe not gonna it's not, what's the word I'm trying to look for? I can't think of the word. Resonate.
Yeah.
But you would think that somebody younger would be like, just the way when people were sort of in our age group or younger, like, fuck you, Ronald Reagan. And, it seemed like there wasn't really a whole lot of that. And, and then here come the Dixie Chicks, and they got in a bunch of trouble for calling the president a demented asshole. So it's, but I think you're definitely onto something. It's like maybe if people did actually do something back in that time period, there could be like a third choice.
Yeah, I think like part of that is this, and you saw it right after this last election when it appeared Biden actually won the election. The first thing out of some of the elites in the Democratic superstructure, the first thing out of their mouths was the far left cost us, made it like this shouldn't have been close, and it was far left positions that cost us some votes in some places, and that's like, fuck, man, this is how we also have Trump. We have Trump because the Democratic Party thinks that the way to win votes is by shifting farther to the right every 4 years. Instead of saying, well, what if we shift farther left? Like, what happens? Like, what happens there? Yeah. So, and that's part of that's sort of hand in hand with that thing I was talking about in that podcast, where this third progressive option was never constructed or maintained, is that the Democrats keep shifting to the right. And that's just the Republicans love that, because the farther they go right, the farther they can go right, and now we have Donald Trump. Like, there's not much farther right you can go before you have an outright Mussolini or Hitler. So I don't think we should go there.
I would say that because of what's happened with the pandemic, it's sort of forced me to pay more attention to something that I kind of really don't particularly want to spend a whole lot of time thinking about, but I feel like now I'm forced to do it because of these idiots. And I kind of resent that because I'd rather just, I'd rather not think about it. I'd rather just listen to music and draw and try to appreciate what I have and look after my little family. But these idiots just keep getting in my way. Do you feel like that? Because like you did say on your podcast where it's like at the end of it, you're like, well, I'm thinking about this now, but ultimately I'm a father of 2 and I have a partner and I have responsibilities. And I also want to have pleasure in my own individual life, playing guitar and doing stuff. Do you sometimes think that like at the end of the day, you just want to go, man, it's important that I connect with people and think this stuff, but I almost resent having to spend so much time thinking about this because ultimately I'd rather just do these things.
Oh, absolutely. Is
there any of that?
Absolutely. All this stuff, all this bullshit, this Trump stuff it's a drain on sane society. And I felt that way ever since we started the band, really. Like all this stuff of having to pay attention to politics, and like I was never interested in it. I just felt like something has to be done. Like I didn't want to think about it, but I couldn't help like dwelling on this stuff because it seems so transparently the way society is set up seems so transparently unjust and irrational and inefficient, that because I would rather be singing about fucking hockey and Dungeons and Dragons or something, but but
paying tributes to Celtic Frost and going ooh.
Yeah.
By the way, I enjoyed that part too. I was like, yeah, there are a lot of grunts and uhs and yeah. I would much rather talk about that stuff or think about that stuff. But
yeah, it's like that's what life's about. Life is about focusing on the things that build you up, that excite you and inspire you. But the society we've been born into, there's so much stuff that does the absolute opposite. And I guess the trick to life is trying to find a way to be inspired to do stuff despite or against all that negative shit. I haven't quite mastered that part of life, but
I don't think anybody has. So what about the band? Has this year, have you had time or have you had even the inspiration to work on new music since everybody is kind of in shutdown? Because some people in bands are like, they're really, this year, they really utilized their free time. Like, are you a fan of that band, Sepultura?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I talked to Derek for one of these like a week ago, and I think they really took the bull by the horns, and they just made all these videos and of them playing their songs from their various stages of their career with special guest stars like everybody from Devin Townsend to the guitar player from Testament. I forgot his name, but
Alex Skolnick.
Yeah, him. And they do interviews and stuff, and they've really done. I don't know. They've just keeping themselves out there, I guess.
I saw the video they made for it was sort of about land defenders in the Amazon. It starts with like the acoustic intro. It's so fucking awesome. Like that new record of theirs is pretty fucking awesome. I like how they kind of did it in like record. 3 or 4 different sections. The instrumental part, the melodic part, and the old school part. It's pretty cool.
The first song, which is really good.
Yeah,
I was like, if people don't like Quadra, they're just being a dick.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
And all that stuff was the singer switcheroo was so long ago. But
yeah.
Have you been I mean, like, obviously being a dad and having all these things that you have to do, especially during a pandemic, have you even had time to entertain writing stuff, or is that
well no, when everything first hit, I think everybody had the same idea about, well, this is a good opportunity to ramp up the writing. And I think we were heading towards that sort of mode anyways. But then, there was like a sort of a flurry sort of near the beginning of all this where we were all trading riffs back and forth. I was sending some to Todd, I sent some to Sulin. Sulin sent me something. Todd sent me a couple things. And, but for us, we kind of have to get into the practice space to make it. We can't really do the remote thing. Like it doesn't. We ultimately we have to get in the practice space to finish a song. And right now we're back in Code Red, and our practice space like just set up a system where you have to schedule when you're going to be there, how long you're going to be there, and you can only go in one person at a time. So we couldn't even practice. I think we would be right now, I think, if we were back in like lower Code Orange. And that's what we were planning for. Like we were trying to figure out, like, troubleshoot the room, troubleshoot ventilation and that sort of thing. And, but that's out the window for now. So, but I mean, we didn't maximize, or I personally didn't max out all this time, writing new stuff every day, partly because I need that feedback of being in the practice space with Todd and Jord to like keep things moving. And partly, like you say, and you experience in your everyday life, is like there's a lot of stuff to do, even if you don't have a job. When you're a parent, you have a job, another 24/7 job. So yeah, like I haven't had, it just hasn't happened yet. But like now we're chomping at the bit. I feel like I am. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and you've also, and I'm sure also you've poured whatever time you have outside of actually how you were just explained about having to be around the other guys in the practice room. You have your Patreon page to pour what time you can put into your, I guess, me time or whatever, and getting feedback from other people.
That's my autonomous sort of project.
Yeah. And you always put really good stuff up. I really enjoy listening to what you have to say about when you dissect these songs and things from the band's past, and not even that long ago. Like I noticed when I saw you guys, before I actually said hello briefly, that after you were done playing, instead of getting off the stage and getting as far away from your audience as possible, you actually just hang out and just go to the floor and talk to anybody that's interested in talking to you. And I gotta say, I haven't really seen that, and I thought that was really interesting. Have you always done that?
Not always. Like I think it's only been like, well, we kind of would do that. But sort of informally. Now I just do it. Now I do it intentionally. I wonder if we'll ever do that again now. With But I think part of it was like when I started seeing bands charging people for these, they call them meet and greets.
Yeah, I know.
And I just thought, something about that didn't feel right to me. So I think it became a little tiny bit more intentional for me, just to, we just played. There you guys are. You're still standing there. Just pop on down, and we'll do one just like the old-fashioned way.
maybe less of a drunken encounter and more of a thoughtful encounter.
We get them all. We get every kind of down there. We get the drunken ones where they're like slobbering on you and yelling in your ear, and like, and then there are the ones the people who've waited a long time to actually, hopefully they want to tell you what a song meant or a lyric meant, and that's important too. And some people just want to say, hey, how's it going? Like here we both are in this venue, and we're just all saying hi. Some people are fine with that. And I think it would seem weird to me now to play the show. like I can only think of one show. I was having such a bad time at one show. I think it was in Belgium. I can't
Yeah.
remember where, but we like I remember knowing 3/4 of the way through the show, like as soon as the last note is played, I'm out of here. And
Right.
I just put down my guitar and left because I think something in the crowd was pissing me off. And other than like a extenuating circumstance like that, um, I think I would find it weird just to play the songs and then just bail now, without saying hi. And I think that's why I get pissed off when we play a show and we go to say hi to people and the venue instructs their security to get everybody out of the venue immediately,
Right. Did you write
that
that?
pisses me off.
Yeah. Did you write that little tweet where you sort of poked fun at certain venues in 2019 and then in 2020 everybody's family?
Yeah.
Uh,
Like I deleted it eventually because I didn't like where it was going. Like I could see that it really resonated with people in bands. People in bands were like, "Fuck yes, exactly." But then I could see some people who were, part of that whole save our stages kind of thing, taking it the wrong way. Like, so I deleted it just to, but I mean, that is an issue when things get back to normal. If, if your venue has survived because of the generosity of bands, do not be fucking pushing their fans out of the building
that's
as soon
right.
as they're done the set, and do not be fucking robbing them blind at the merch table. So nice.
But I think the last thing I was wondering about was, and I kind of asked this question to Todd, but as you know, I've only maybe in the last 4 or 5 years realized I enjoyed Propagandhi a lot. Like everything you guys do reminds me of that feeling I had when I was like a kid.
Like when me and George very first started the band, um, like the idea was to be more like a cross between Sacrifice and Creator with Voivod and mix it with Dead Kennedys. But at the time, um, we weren't very good at our instruments, I think, and
Right.
and I couldn't really sing that style. And then the Bad Religion Suffer record came out. I just happened upon it in the store and bought it for $1 on cassette and took it home. And I was like, what the fuck? This is like Motorhead meets the Ramones. This is really interesting because I'd never heard anything like it before.
Right.
And that record in particular to me was almost metallic, the first Bad Religion record. And
Yeah.
and I was immediately super interested in it. And I was like, this guitar stuff's a little more in my wheelhouse. I can almost sing like this, I thought.
Right.
And so we started then when we made our demos, there was 2 more little demo tapes we made after that. They were kind of a more metallic version of that, but they didn't quite sound like the Fat Record stuff. And then when we went to record the first record that came out on Fat Records, we used a drum kit that they had chosen. So, and it was the guy who was recording and mixing the Fat Records band. So immediately there was sort of that tone shaping to everything. It sounded like a Fat Records record. And Mike was trying to get me to sing with like more nasally.
Right.
And I guess sort of like he does, like that's the way he likes it to sound. I was kind of doing it and I wasn't so sure about it. Like it wasn't that far off from what I was doing, but when the record came out, like when we finished it, I was like, holy fuck, this does sound more like SoCal punk than Winnipeg punk.
Yeah.
And then as the years went on after that, we got better at our instruments and were able to like actually go back to the very start where we could incorporate a little more of our, the Voivod and Sacrifice and Creator kind of influences in the songs.
Yeah. It seems like the tipping point was fuck, I can't even pronounce the name of the record because I keep pronouncing the name of the city.
Was it the Potemkin City Limits record?
It was. That
Yeah,
seems
yeah.
like, that seems like the real tipping point of just like that was then, and this is uncharted territories. Was there and you've said that has long since been the most ungraciously received record out of all your records, but that seems like that's kind of the tipping point record in a way. And you know, from that point onward, or even before that, really, it just doesn't even sound like the same band of anything of
Yeah.
the early stuff. Did you guys get? I'm trying to think of the word. I want to say blowback. I don't know if that's the right term, but
yeah. We did.
People are like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Well, I think every record we put out from the beginning, like after the first record, there was always a large segment of people who had bought the previous record who were disappointed and mad. Like when we put out the second record, Less Talk More Rock, like most of the people that liked the first record hated that record. And then when we put out Today's Empires, most of the people that liked Less Talk More Rock hated Today's Empires. And then it happened again on Potemkin, except it was like just a more general sense of disinterest. And but since then, people like the people who've kind of joined us for the adventure from supporting cast through Failed States to Victory Lap kind of are suddenly or have been more interested in Potemkin, and that's where their journey sort of starts with the band. So that's kind of, you know, it's like there's different chapters. It's sort of like when I think of like Voivod, for example, it's not the exact same trajectory, but almost no records of theirs sound the same. You know, in some ways, especially the first 5, right? Like it's like every one is like a different band, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. You never know what you're gonna get. I like that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, well, that's kind of funny because Michelle's in the book, and I wouldn't say I'm like a real super close friend, but or anything like that. But we've kind of known each other for a while there, and we talked about you guys, and he seemed to have a lot of respect for you guys, and really enjoyed the last 3 records and stuff. And I thought that's kind of cool because Voivod they're my favorite metal band probably when all was said and done, you know. And and I know what you're saying. Your path is kind of similar, and I think for Voivod, do you have a favorite Voivod record or era or anything like that?
Oh, it's hard. Like, like obviously Dimension Hatros is amazing. Obviously Nothing Face is amazing. Angel Rat to me, like when it first came out, I thought I didn't like it, but now I see it as like this amazing record. And same with Outer Limits. I bought that record probably 4 or 5 times since it came out, and each time I was like, I don't know. And now I'm like, Outer Limits is awesome. You know, it's like it's and then like the self-titled record in 2000 with Newstead, fucking amazing. And then the newest records are even more amazing. It's like I can't even believe it. You know, when I try to think of how long they've been a band and how many sort of changes they've gone through, sound wise and membership wise, and they're still able to fucking put out a record that's like, oh my god, this is as good as Dimension Hatros. Like, you know, it's really
I think I like everything more or less, but I bought the first record when it came out and loved that. And for whatever weird reason, I thought there was a Van Halen vibe on the first record only, although I don't know why I thought that. It just, I don't know. Maybe it had that energy.
Yeah. Well, the guitar playing, yeah.
And I didn't like Roar. I don't know why. It has the best cover, maybe, you know, and I do love Korgel the Exterminator, and then what's the other song we always play? Fuck. But I think it was Killing Technology Onward. When Killing Technology came out, I was like, this is the, you know.
That was next level.
Yeah, that was next level shit. And it reminded me a lot of their brethren I always thought was this band DeCroizen from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm sure
Yeah.
their first record is like amazing, and it just seemed like they just, oh, the guitar playing is kind of influenced by, maybe it's just a coincidence that these guys are using weird atonal chords or whatever, but I thought Killing Technology, there's like the holy trinity. It was Killing Technology, Dimension, and then Nothing Face. And I loved Angel Rat,
Yeah.
and I loved Outer Limits, and they were all totally different. And I even thought the three-piece, I instantly loved those records. It wasn't the same, it was different, but I love that Phobos record. I think that's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I was just telling Todd the other day, I'm committing to both Phobos and Negatron, like, because like I ignored them when they came out because it seemed like it's not Voivod, but it's fucking Piggy and Away. It's fucking Piggy and Away. How could it be bad? You know,
no,
so
I'm gonna
commit to them.
Yeah, well, Phobos is the better of the two. I think Phobos, if there was a top five, if I had to be forced at gunpoint, I would put Phobos in that top five because it's the scariest record and there's no guitar solos. It's just he's just creating this wash of dread and terror, like
right.
like the oxygen really is going out of your spacecraft and you're fucked. That's what the whole record is like. And he does a good job. That Eric Forrest guy did a good job on that record. But I'll put Voivod above a lot of their peers. You know, I mean, I don't know. They just do it for me time and time again. And he was the best guitar player, I thought, for that style of music, and the most unique one. So
yeah, totally.
Okay, well, I turned this into a Voivod worship session.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that.